Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to this community briefing on COVID-19 and our local response. Joining me again this afternoon is interpreter Margie Prop. Thank you so much, Margie, for being here to provide your services. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to learn more about how you can protect yourself, your loved ones, and your neighbors. We want to remind you that a great deal of information can be found on our website, covid19.lincoln.ne.gov. At that website, you will also find a dashboard that provides so much local data, and you will find our COVID-19 risk dial, a tool to help our residents know the steps that they can take to protect their health and the health of everyone in our community. The COVID-19 risk dial provides a visual, color-coded forecast of the risk of spread of COVID-19 here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. Red represents the highest risk of spread, and green represents the lowest. For each color of risk, our Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department provides specific recommendations for physical distancing, face covering, hand washing, illness monitoring, and disinfection for when we are at home, at work, or in public. And we update the dial each Friday based on local data to estimate how high the risk of spread of COVID-19 is currently. The health department team has determined that the risk of spread of COVID-19 remains moderate, so the COVID-19 risk dial will stay in the mid-yellow range, no change from last week. And while the dial position remains in this moderate risk category, we do want to continue to offer words of caution. We all, of course, remain at risk of being susceptible to the virus anytime we are out amongst other people in close contact. It's extremely important that we continue to employ proven public health strategies to prevent the spread. Please stay at least 6 feet distant from other people and wash your hands frequently. Wear a face mask around others. And if you are in an at-risk category, please continue to stay home as much as possible. This is how we will continue to protect ourselves, our families, and our neighbors from COVID-19. Moving on to our specific situation update here in Lincoln, we have had an additional 29 individuals test positive for COVID-19. The total number of lab-confirmed cases now stands at 1,588 here in Lincoln. Our total recoveries identified to date is up from yesterday's total of 473 to today's 479 recoveries. And this figure is rising quickly, which is good news, since about 65% of our total cases were identified during the month of May. And to track recoveries, our contact tracers need to follow up with people 28 days after the date of their lab results in order to determine if they have recovered and have returned to their normal health status. That's when they're considered recovered. Health Director Pat Lopez is here, and she will now come up and give us an update on all of the risk dial indicators and how the determination for this week's risk factor was made.
First, we look at the number of local and regional COVID-19 cases and find out and whether the number is increasing or decreasing. We have seen a decline in the number of COVID-19 cases over the past few weeks from 250 the week of May 23rd to 113 for the week ending June 6th. This week, however, we are on pace to level off or maybe see a slight increase. We are currently at 122 cases right now. When you look at the 7-day rolling average of cases, the curve is flattened to about 16 cases per day. We are monitoring this closely to see how recent events and additional easing of restrictions might impact the spread of the virus locally. Then we look at the positivity rate as the second factor. In the air, we continue to see a decline from 9.3% in mid-May to 6.9% today. The state rate is at 11.8% and the national rate is 10.9%. The third factor is our local hospital capacity, which continues to remain strong. We have even seen quite a decline in the number of COVID-19 patients in our Lincoln hospitals in just the past 2 weeks, from 41 patients on June 3rd to 27 patients today. This includes 18 Lancaster County residents and 9 from other communities. The new state directive health measure, which goes into effect this coming Monday, the 22nd, will allow for elective surgeries at medical facilities without the need to follow minimum requirements on bed capacity and personal protective equipment. We will continue to monitor the number of hospitalizations to see what impact this has on the future capacity and our personal protective use. I want to remind everyone, our hospitals ceased doing elective surgeries a week prior to a directive measure from the governor. A fourth key factor we look at is our testing capacity, which remains steady. Overall, the number of COVID-19 tests being completed has leveled out. So far this week, 2,000 tests have been completed, on pace to match the previous 2 weeks. However, we do have the capacity to do more testing in Lincoln, so we strongly encourage people to sign up to get tested if you have symptoms of COVID-19 by contacting your doctor or filling out a risk assessment at chihealth.com or bryanhealth.com. Test Nebraska has expanded COVID-19 testing to all Lancaster County residents. This testing will be available next week on Monday, June 22nd, and Tuesday, June 23rd at North Star High School. This process also begins with a free online risk assessment at testnebraska.com. All of the testing at CHI St. Elizabeth, Bryan Health, and Test Nebraska is by appointment only. The fifth factor that we look at in considering deciding the dial position is the health department's ability to investigate cases. And again, our capacity to conduct contact tracing remains high. The yellow or moderate level on the COVID risk dial indicates the following recommendations for the public. Stay home if you're sick. Stay at least 6 feet apart from anyone outside your household. Cautiously expand interaction with others with outdoor activities. Be a hero. Wear a face covering. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Disinfect highly touched surfaces and monitor for illness. For those over age 65 and those with underlying health conditions, we continue to encourage you to stay home as much as possible and continue to rely on help from others for needs outside your home. On the COVID risk dial, when we unveiled it on May 11th and then on May 20th, we added information and guidance for how local businesses could use the risk dial as a guide for planning and implementing their operation protocols and mitigation strategies during the pandemic. Health department staff have interacted with hundreds of businesses over the past 2 months about the strategies to reduce the spread of COVID-19. We have used all this input to develop a comprehensive strategy that can easily be used by businesses of all sizes. This strategy provides guidance in 4 areas: physical distancing, engineering controls, which means creating physical barriers, installing equipment, using technology to reduce the frequency and intensity of close contact between people, and administrative controls, which can include in-house training and implementing procedures that reduce transmission of COVID-19. And finally, personal protective equipment, or PPE, is protective clothing or equipment that can reduce COVID-19 spread, such as cloth face coverings. More recently, we have been working with Lincoln and Lancaster County schools and how they can use the COVID risk dial along with these 4 strategic guidance areas. The health department will continue to work with schools to find the best way to have students in school as much as possible. It is widely acknowledged the best option for student learning and for our community is that they are in school. On Tuesday of this week, we all heard Dr. Steve Joel and Lynn Standish provide initial details of their plans to reopen Lincoln Public Schools in the fall. The COVID risk dial has become a useful tool for our community, and many organizations and communities across the country also have adopted very similar tools.
Thank you, Director Lopez, and to the Health Department for all your work on the dial, and to all of our community partners who are working to use it to help create structures and standards for how we safely and sensibly navigate the days ahead in this pandemic. As we navigate the summer days ahead, we know that warm weather and the modifications to pools around our community have meant that the home pools you can buy in stores have flown off the shelves. And we understand that above-ground swimming pools of all sizes remain one of the hard-to-find items in our local stores. So while your family is having fun in the pool, we do want to remind you of some of the important safety precautions regarding home pools, and these come from our local Safe Kids Lincoln-Lancaster County organization. So here are some top tips from them. First, make sure your pool is in compliance with the city's pool fence code. The code states that all pools with a depth of 18 inches or more must be fully enclosed by a 4-foot or higher fence with a self-closing or self-latching gate. And the second tip is to ensure that children are being actively supervised by a responsible adult when allowed to be in or around any pool. Avoid talking on the phone, reading a book, or working in the yard while children are in and around a pool. And last but not least, life jackets should be worn by non-swimmers or beginning swimmers of all ages. And you'll find more information about this at safekidslincoln.org. We want, of course, all kids to have fun in the sun and in the pool, but to do so safely. Another fun place to cool off in the summer is your local library. And we are pleased to announce today that our Lincoln City Libraries will reopen to the public Monday, June 22nd. You'll see some adaptations in effect to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and keep people safe as they use our public libraries. And our Public Library Director, Pat Leach, is with us today to tell us more about what we can expect starting Monday. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. We are eager to open libraries again and to do so in a way that is safe and encourages well-being for everybody. So a few things that you'll see when our libraries reopen on Monday. Face coverings will be strongly encouraged. We will be limiting visits to 1 hour at a time as we reopen because we have lower building capacities in place. So our staff will be greeting people as you enter to make sure everybody understands what their shift is and to make sure that we're monitoring our building capacity. That means that computer sessions will be limited to 1 per day. And at this time, seating is limited due to temporary removal of chairs to encourage social distancing. Study and meeting rooms are not available at this time, but will be in the future. Newspapers are not available yet, and we are not able to accept donated materials so far. One thing I would mention is that most materials that were checked out prior to 3 weeks ago are due on July 1st, but everybody's welcome to return their materials early so that we can check those in and get them back on the shelf and ready for other people to use. And all of our locations will have a special time designated, that's Fridays, from 10 to 11 in the morning, and that's set aside for use by those who are especially vulnerable to illness. So our libraries will welcome those individuals Fridays from 10 to 11. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Leach. Next, we have another update on city operations, and this one is related to our city budget. Sales tax receipts for April are in, and as anticipated, they are down substantially due to the economic impacts of the pandemic. These sales tax revenue show a 13% loss during the month of April over last year, this same time period. That's a reflection, of course, of our community's effort to stifle the spread of COVID-19 by limiting in-person dining, by restrictions that have been imposed with barbers and hairstylists and other business operations, and of course just community level of comfort, being out and about and spending money in our community. But because those critical health changes continued for many weeks, we do expect that, along with April, which we just received, that our May sales tax receipts will likely be down in a similar fashion. The draft budget that I proposed to City Council for their review anticipates these drops in sales tax revenue and includes changes in city operations necessary to balance our budget We will continue to work with the City Council, and we'll have a final draft budget for the public to review and speak to later this summer. Moving on to better news, Lincoln is still #1 in the nation for our census response rate for cities with populations of 250,000 to 1 million. Our response is 73.3%, and Nebraska ranks 5th among the states with a 67% response rate. For counties, Lancaster County is number 25 nationwide at 73.7% response rate. This is terrific participation. We want everyone in our community to be counted. This is part of how we reach revenues from the federal level and bring them down to our community to make our quality of life better in Lincoln, Nebraska, whether it's access to health care or school lunches for our children. So if you have not yet responded to the census, please do so today. You can find more information at 2020census.gov. Finally, today is Juneteenth. And in honor of this important day, I am issuing a proclamation designating today as Juneteenth Day here in Lincoln. And at this time, I would like to read the proclamation for you all. Whereas the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st, 1863 by President Abraham Lincoln, for whom our city is named, and whereas it was not until June 19th, 1865, that news of emancipation reached the last group of black slaves in Galveston, Texas. And whereas Juneteenth is recognized as the oldest known celebration honoring the true end to slavery in our nation, and whereas Juneteenth is observed to remember and honor the generations of Black Americans who endured slavery and to celebrate the resilience and hope of the Black community, and whereas Juneteenth also serves as a day to commemorate the Black American experience and to ensure that the history of slavery in this country and its aftermath will not be forgotten. And whereas Black Americans are still working to realize full equality of opportunity, and whereas Juneteenth offers the opportunity to recommit ourselves to ensuring a more just and equitable society and to encourage an awareness and respect for all cultures. Now therefore I, Lyrian Gaylor Baird, Mayor of Lincoln, the City of Lincoln, Nebraska, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2020 as Juneteenth Day to celebrate and promote awareness of Black American history and culture. Happy Juneteenth Day. Now we'll open up for questions.
Mayor Bill Shamert with 1011.
Hi, Bill.
There seems to be a rise in the percentage of cases in citizens under the age of 20. Do you have any factors that you can attribute that to?
I'll ask Director Lopez to come up and see if she can speak to the health department's analysis if they have some information on that topic for you.
Hi, Bill. I think we are seeing more individuals in that age group starting to be tested with, I think you know that we have a lot more youth activities going on and individuals together, so there's been more opportunities for testing. And we're monitoring that closely, and we'll let you know if we see any trends starting to develop.
Right, as you may recall, we now have said today in the briefing that all residents of Lancaster County are eligible to get a test. But prior to that, there was an opening, it was opened up to the age groups of 15 to 35. So until recently, we haven't had as much accessibility of testing for younger people, but that has changed. Any other questions?
Hi, it's Sophia Sarek with the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi. So although Lincoln is doing really well in terms of the census, how do you assume that COVID-19 and other disrupt in the city will affect it? Do you think it'll have any impact on the overall results?
Well, I sure hope not. I think what everyone's concerned about, of course, is the degree to which traditionally census has involved a fair amount of door-to-door follow-up for people who have not submitted their census either by mail traditionally. This year there's an online option, which is great news given the pandemic. We'd love to avoid having people having to hit the streets and go door-to-door for the potential exposure that that entails. So to the extent we are able to minimize door-to-door follow-up by getting more people to respond now, online or through the mail, the better.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, this is Bill. I have just one more.
Sure.
Is there any plan at City Hall to require masks for anybody that enters? This question relating to the governor's announcement this week that if there is a requirement, these local entities wouldn't be entitled to part of that CARES Act funding?
Sure. Well, just to start off as a baseline, as an employer, the City of Lincoln is requiring our teammates, people who work for the City of Lincoln, to wear face masks. But here, we are actually city-county building. We call it City Hall because that's the traditional name for places where city government resides. But we are a city-county shared facility, and people come and testify at the City-County Planning Commission meetings, and we have the City-County Health Department. So it's very difficult for us to sort of disaggregate the two, and with them not being allowed in county facilities, we've just made it something that is strongly encouraged. And it's just something that's safe and sensible. It is something that is temporary. We won't be asked to wear masks forever, but as long as we have this risk of a novel virus, it's just a smart and sensible thing to do, and we strongly encourage it. And we actually will be offering masks if people, as they come into our buildings, we will be offering masks to make that as convenient as possible too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Juneteenth Day. Please take time to think about the importance of this holiday and have a safe and healthy weekend.